we've been talking about the left and its obsession with identity politics. Would someone like Owen Jones, is he some of the sort of worst examples of that?
I mean, I believe in quite a broad church on the left, actually. There are probably some people who subscribe to my train of thought, fellow leftists, if you like, who think we need to banish certain elements from the left and destroy them and get rid of them from the Labour Party and so on. I'm generally not in favour of that. I'm generally not in favour of proscription or trying to drive people away from the party. And actually, when you look at the Labour Party, since it was formed, really, it's been a broad church. You have had a very active left within it. People like Tony Benn, people like Michael Foot, people like Dennis Skinner and Eric Heffer. These are all people who kind of came up from the left of the Labour Party and of the wider movement, and quite often have got a lot to contribute. Sometimes they come up with, some of the best ideas around economic injustice and how to reduce some of the real serious wealth and income inequalities that we've got in our country. When it comes to issues like war, the escapade in Iraq, it was largely the left of the party who drove the opposition to Tony Blair. Sometimes they're nuts. I mean, let's be blunt about it. Sometimes they are crazy, and particularly with some of the extreme wokery that they peddle. I mean, this is marginal fringe stuff that they're trying to inculcate people into and trying to embed within mainstream politics, and they can't be allowed to succeed. But by and large, I believe in a broad church, and I think Tony Benn was one of my political heroes. Someone who believed in democracy, someone who believed in Parliament, someone who really didn't like the European Union, and if he was still alive at the time, would have been one of the main foot soldiers for the Brexit campaign. And those people still need to be involved, but they just need to be challenged where they talk nonsense, which they quite often do.
The Owen Jones stuff is like the Queers for Palestine and stuff like that.
Yeah, and if that's what floats your boat, and if that's what is your particular focus, then fine, get on with it. But the problem is, if you peddle fringe and minority causes, and you spend so much time and commit so much focus to it, then you've got to understand that there will be a correlation between that. If you want the wider left to adopt it, there's going to be a correlation between that, the time and focus that you commit to it, and the fact that you will start losing mainstream voters on a lot of this stuff. You've got to speak the language of ordinary people. What is it that motivates ordinary people? They want job security. They want to be able to have good, solid industries in their communities where they know that their son or daughter is going to be able to pursue a career and have job stability throughout. People will get made redundant from time to time or get sacked from time to time, but you've got to have thriving industry in your community. You've got to have well-funded public services. If your mum needs a hip operation, you want the comfort of knowing she can get into a hospital and get that operation quite quickly. They want their streets to be safe and to be policed properly. The police, I respect individual police officers, but as an institution, the police are woeful at what they do. There's a huge amount, I think, of unrecognised almost lawlessness on our streets, and people can see it. We've got a massive a chronic housing shortage in this country, which too many politicians just simply don't seem particularly fazed about. I think a lack of decent, sanitary, affordable housing actually leads to so many other social ills. I think there's a real connection between those things. Family breakdown, for example. If you get the basics right and you show people that you're in touch with their lives on the basics, then they'll probably allow you the slack on some of this other stuff, international causes and so on. But the problem for the left, so much of the left, is it focused so much on causes that were, for many working class people, minority causes. LGBT rights, for example. Now, I'm not saying those issues are not important, but actually they're not what cuts it for many families who are suffering from economic insecurity, can't get on the housing ladder, can't find a job and so on. They've got drug dealers on the corner of their streets. the environmental movement, climate change. Again, I'm not saying it's not a particularly important issue, but for some politicians, it's all they ever talk about on the left. And for most people, they're kind of thinking, well, actually, it's all very well talking about climate change, but what about the here and now? What about my life now? You're talking about a fair transition. We're seeing industries closing. We're seeing jobs being lost potentially because of net zero. What does that mean for me and my family? So unless you're in tune with people's basic instincts and priorities, then you can kiss goodbye to winning them over on, in terms of the ballot box.
Are there signs that people have moved past some of the identity politics stuff? I saw Ash Sarkar was sort of pushing, almost talking as though she'd never been part of it. The comedian Catherine Ryan was doing the same thing just this morning, I think, coming out with some stuff like, that woke stuff. And it was people were putting up videos going, well, hang on, this was you a few years ago. Are we moving past it?
I think we are probably a bit more confident about pushing back now, in a way that some people previously weren't. I think we are seeing some institutions rejecting some of the more extreme variations of it. Stonewall, for example, some of our institutions are pushing back against Stonewall, pushing back against some of the wilder demands of the trans lobby. I think the election of Trump has got the potential to do, the re-election of Trump, if you like, the second time round, has got the potential to do two things. I think it may make people in Britain and Europe be a bit more confident about pushing back in the way that they do. The DEI agenda now in America, they're really pushing back hard against it. I feel we need to do that in Britain, because I think the whole thing as it's now like Japanese knotweed. It's taken on a life of its own and has become so damaging, and is unrecognizable from its original mission in many ways. So I think lots of people on this side of the pond will feel a level of confidence about that and saying we should do some of this stuff, and probably are feeling that. But I think at the same time, I think a lot of people on the left, and if you like, the liberal progressive class, will see it as an opportunity to define themselves against Trump. They think this is the devil incarnate. And I'm no fan of Trump, by the way, but they'll think this is the devil incarnate. And actually, to show how much we dislike him, we've got to adopt even more hardline variations of the woke agenda, the DEI agenda. Don't be surprised if some of that happens. But I think it's too early to say. But my view is consistent in the sense that if the left continues to peddle the extremes of this stuff, it will continue to lose the votes of working class people in the way it's done over the last 20 and 30 years.
Yeah, I think it's going to become less fashionable, and therefore fewer celebrities will adopt it. I hope so, because we need to be able to talk sensibly again and have rational conversations without fear that somebody's going to report us to someone or some such thing.